Good afternoon, Husky fans. Thank you for tuning into the 7th episode of Husky Dash with your hosts at Nathan Mathisen and myself at 9_3/4. Today, we're going to be diving into which Husky is poised for a breakout season and what game Nathan and I are the most excited for with this upcoming season. First, though, y'all get to listen to us figure out how big of a role money actually played in the Pac-12 restart. A small note before we truly get started with these segments. Nathan and I are here for you guys. Of course, we love what we do. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. But a large part of this for us is getting to hear all of y'all's feedbacks, criticism, and live commentary in the chat right alongside us. So please feel free to drop a comment or even just a hello, and we'll make sure we address it and say hi back. Now then, Nathan, I've got to hear your opinion on this. I've been waiting all week to hear just how big of a part you think money played in actual football coming back.
I personally think that money was really a huge deciding factor. I feel you look at it as football is the only sport that's coming back in the Power 5. Basketball doesn't come back until November 25th, when usually there'd be like cross country going on right now in other sports. But we've got football right now, and if you look at it, football is also the big money getter for all these schools. I mean, football and basketball are how these schools make profit off of their sports, which then support the other sports, such as cross country. The average revenue for universities for football is $31.9 million per year. So that's the average. So there's schools like Texas and Alabama who are making close to $200 million off of football. And then you look at it, basketball then comes in next, and of course basketball is the next sport that's going to start up. So looking at it from that point, I think money had to have been a real big influence on the whole decision for football to come back, especially since, in my opinion, football's one of the more high risk with COVID going on sports. I mean, what's your opinion on this whole thing? On money.
I think money played a huge part. And just stepping aside from that, I mean, like not even stepping aside from it, just taking that into account, we see that like other extracurricular clubs on campus aren't getting the restart dates that obviously like football and basketball do. I'm going to pull example for myself again with rugby. I play club rugby for UW. We're like with UW, but not necessarily affiliate. We're somewhere in between, like we don't really fall under the NCAA category because we're a club rugby team, and we make zero money for the UW athletic department. And because of that, I don't know if maybe my team officers or coach have heard anything, but we've had zero correspondence so far that was specific to us about when we might be able to return to play, what that might look at, what our field reservations or like being able to access the IMA, which is our on-campus gym here, when we'll be able to get like our gear and whatnot. Like we haven't been hearing any of this yet. Whereas football has practices going on, they have a start date. Basketball has a start date now. It's all over the news. And you can't help but wonder what like the Pac-12 commissioner or these people are talking about when they say money didn't play a part in bringing football back. My next question for them then would, is just like, okay, where's rugby? Where's tennis? Where's cross country? Where's all these other actual NCAA sports? Not just the club teams like me or Ultimate Frisbee. Like there's all these other NCAA teams and student athletes who have worked just as hard as these football players, just as hard as these basketball players, but aren't getting as much back on return. And so at some point you have to just realize like, yes, money played a part. No, they're not saying that, but that's actually what's going on.
Yeah, I think they're just trying to, Larry Scott and the Pac-12 leaders are all kind of skirting around the topic of money because they don't want then to think people see that, oh, it's just about the money. So you don't actually care about these players' safety, which is a major part of them being allowed to come back was players thought to have been being safe with these new COVID tests and all the new tests. But if it was truly just about money, then you might think, well, maybe they pushed it. Maybe they lied a bit. Maybe these tests aren't as reliable. Maybe they aren't as set up to succeed as you would think. They just want to get that money from the football revenue.
Yeah. I guess another big part of that too, aside from just money and football and basketball being able to make money for them too, is the question of how like ethically or morally or whatever adjective you want to put in there is like how right was it that football came back first? Like money aside, yes, football makes colleges all over the country a bleep ton of money. You know, like
Huge
it's
amount.
so much money coming in. Some colleges run off of their football programs, which I think is insane. And then at some point past that money issue, though, like I said, is you have to start questioning the ethical and moral reasons or reasonings from bringing football back, and you have to consider that it's not just the athletes and the coaches who are affected by these decisions. You have stadium personnel like maintenance, administration, everyone involved in running those stadiums where the teams are going to be playing. You have referees who now have to come to these games. You have other team personnel who may not fall into the category of a coach, a player, or medical staff. And many of these people need these jobs. And with a pandemic going on, and a pandemic being the largest reason, if not the only, for these delayed seasons to start, is some of these people may be the only breadwinners of their family. They may be at risk. And so now, with your decision to push football forward, you might be giving them their job back. But then at what point are you going to tell them, like, hey, it's either you come to your job and get your money, or we fire you and find someone else who will come during the pandemic. And I just don't see a human way, not like a moral, I just don't see a human way you can ask a breadwinner of a family or a household to choose between their life and their family's lives and possibly contracting COVID, bringing that home to their children, and their only paying job. It's like, how do you make someone make that decision?
Yeah, you bring up great points there. I didn't think about that with the stadium workers and all. The referees, I'm not entirely sure what the referees is. I know the NFL actually allowed the referees to opt out of the season and gave them a salary. I don't know how the Pac-12 is doing with that, so I can't speak on that if they're giving the refs any bit of money. But then, yeah, the stadium workers who they probably, I don't think they're able to opt out of working at the concession stands and all that. They have to go to work. They have to be put in a place of danger, but with the fans not in attendance, I guess they won't be going to work maybe. So I'm not sure how that all working out. But then getting back to the ethical standpoint for the players, it's tough to make the argument that it's ethically right to bring them back, but I'm going to try. You know, I've never turned down a challenge, so I'll give it a try. I think that they were given an option. So they were given an option to opt out. All the players could opt out. They were given another year of eligibility. So they didn't necessarily have to play this season. I look at it like the Pac-12, they've got football back. So if you want to play, if these players feel that the risks aren't great enough for them, or they feel that they can still play football and they won't contract the virus, or however they feel, they can play football. But then the people who are a bit more afraid, who have high risk, like asthma maybe, or who have family members who are at high risk, they don't have to play. So I think by giving them this opt-out clause, you could say, and giving the players an additional year of eligibility, you could make an argument that it's ethically okay for the players and that standpoint. But then looking at it for other people who don't have the option, like the ball boys who are for the team, those guys, they probably don't have the option. So it's really a difficult decision, difficult ethically wise.
Yeah, and if you guys in chat have any opinion on this at all, whether or not you disagree with us, agree with us, or just don't even know enough about this to talk about it or chat, just drop that in chat and we'll respond to it. We'll help you out. We'll
drop a question.
Drop a question, drop a comment, drop an insult. We'll respond to all three. One other factor I think that I actually need to praise UW for is their testing policy right now. One of my biggest concerns coming into this season was that I didn't think that it was right that athletes deserved more often testing, or more tests, or in some cases getting a test more than other students or professors or other individuals on campus or in relation to their colleges. But again, I have to praise UW for this, that they're doing an amazing job in trying to make sure everybody on campus gets a test when they need it. Of course, for football and eventually basketball, that daily testing is what's necessary. However, for people like me and you, they have testing that's set up to where you go in person for same day testing. Sorry, let me correct. Not same day results, but like you can get your test done
24
the same
hours.
day you go
I think you get it 24 hours later on.
Yeah, you can also request mail-in tests that they send to you. You do it at home with very easy to read instructions. You send it back. And I haven't been. Yes, that might be happening in some other colleges across the Pac-12 or even the nation, but UW's the only place I've genuinely heard about that happening. And that's something I have to praise our administration for is acknowledging that, yes, the football players need this daily testing, but that doesn't mean that there's not other people on campus who still need these health and safety resources. So I just had to congratulate them for that, at least.
Yeah, UW's been a leader for the testing since it really all started way back when. So they've been a leader on that.
Yeah. One thing I do need to I feel like address, at least in part, before we move on to our next segment, is that COVID isn't the big or full picture anymore. As we know, from individual to individual, country to country, state to state, we're made up of communities and different parts of our lives or experiences that influence who we are today, and that because of that, and maybe it's technology, the internet, shows like this even, the racial inequities and issues themselves are continuing to surface, bubble over, exacerbate, blow up, become apparent. And that's something that everybody has a part in addressing and fixing. And that's something that Nathan and I want everyone to know, is that we understand that that's going on. We both understand that we may not be on the receiving end of many of these like issues and problems, but that we're certainly aware of that, aware of them. We know that they exist in our communities, in our buildings, even in our own houses. Sometimes that we're here. We understand that we have those problems. We no longer want to be people adding to it or just ignoring them or being naive, and that we're definitely here to start solving these problems that we already have and that we've been carrying throughout the millennia. We acknowledge that these things are going on, and we're here to help fix them. Heading into our next segment, though, for a slightly lighter note, or a much lighter note, actually, is we're going to be discussing who we think is best poised for a breakout season in this upcoming 7-game schedule.
Yeah, so, I mean, every year, someone is the breakout player. Every year, someone comes out of nowhere, really, and kind of overperforms, or maybe just performs to the level that nobody thought he could get to. I mean, last year, you look at Trent McDuffie, a true freshman. He comes out, and he's second-team All-American freshman. That's the unsung hero from last year's team. So this year, though, I feel it probably won't be a freshman, as they actually just got on the campus really last week, I believe Coach Jimmy Lake said. So they might not have as good of an opportunity. So I actually looked at it with there were three things I looked at: a player's experience, a player's opportunity, and then the measurables. And after looking through that, and looking at the UW's roster, I came to the conclusion that my bet on who's the unsung hero, who's the guy who comes out of nowhere really, is going to be Tuli Letuli Gasanoa. He's the defensive tackle. He's 6'2", 311 pounds, great size. He's extremely agile. I actually talked with his high school head coach a day ago for something, and he told me that Tuli is very different than most just defensive tackles, as he is very quick. He's quick off the line of the scrimmage, and that helps him immensely. He's had great experience from just last season. He was behind Levi Onwuzurike, who's now, of course, opted out. So he got to learn behind him, and he actually played in 12 of the 13 games. He put up decent stats for kind of a role player, you could say, a situational player. He had some good short gain stops. He had a sack against Oregon State, I believe it was. And then he actually had a couple 5-tackle game performances against Stanford and Oregon. So in that short sample size, he showed that he can play college football. He can play with the best of the best. And that's why I'm picking him as my kind of unsung hero, who I think will overperform maybe expectations, or maybe just show everyone how good he actually is.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you. Like, it's a great pick for a breakout season. Yeah. I'm sure he's going to have a great season. Mm-hmm. That's off the table. I feel like that's like end of discussion right there. He's going to have a great season. But then the discussion definitely picks up for me, at least, with if he's going to have the best breakout season. For me personally, I guess I subconsciously broke it down into the same 3 categories as you.
Yeah.
But I definitely approached it from a who's younger, who has more of that kind of like we did with that segment a few weeks ago. It might have been last week where you kind of looked at how young a player was to delve into some of their stats.
Yeah.
And for me, for a breakout season this year, I think this guy named Asa Turner, our safety, who's a sophomore, he's absolutely poised. Like if you looked up poised in the dictionary right now in Webster, I changed not actually, but you can pretend I changed it to a profile picture of this man. He played in 12 of his 13 games. His like true freshman this past season, he played in 12 of his 13 games, all but the one versus Cal. He started in 5 of those. He over the season went 19 tackles, 16 solo, 2 TFLs, 1 interception, and 1 pass deflection, all in his true freshman year. Like crazy, right? Now, if you compare him to a guy we had who I'd say was one of our later or most recent kind of like greater safeties, which was Brandon Beaver, who came out in 2016. They have the same numbers already year to year, but the only difference there being is that Brandon Beaver, those numbers I pulled were from his senior year where he ended 2019. He ended 2016 with 17 tackles and some other stats, with almost all of them being starts. I want to point out Turner's a true freshman who had 5 starts, didn't play all 13 games, and is already hitting the same numbers as Brandon Beaver, who currently holds the longest interception pick 6 in UW history. But I mean, like Beaver wasn't hitting these numbers until his senior year, and you already see Turner, his true freshman year, pulling these numbers just seemingly out of thin air. I think Asa Turner is poised to reinvent the safety position at UW, reinvigorate it, make defense something that everybody in the nation, not just the Pac-12, wants to talk about. And he's definitely going to elevate that. I'd love to see him break Beaver's record. I think that would be hilarious. And I just think Turner is the most poised as is, with the exception of maybe one other person to just have this incredible breakout season.
Who's this one other person?
I put it in the wrong note section, but I have it for you. It was in case you wanted to pull something up about like immediate effects or like who's going to make the biggest impact the soonest. And this is going to be a dark horse, maybe a horse you didn't even see in the race, but our sophomore punter, Tristan Brown.
I didn't see him. I did not see him as
let me
one
explain
of the possible.
Why, right? He actually jumped out to me because of things he was doing while not at UW. He played at Mount Sac, I think is their nickname. It's Mount San Antonio College, JUCO school. He was averaging 36.3 yards per punt there with a long of 67. And that was over the course of 37 total points for that, punts for them. Sorry. He had 3 of them go for touchbacks, and 16 of them, of the 37, fall and end up within the 20. He won the 2019 Vegas National Punting Championships, among other camp titles from that same event, as well as being the number 1 ranked JUCO punter and the number 2 punter overall for all categories. And he's on our team. So if we want to go by a numbers game, by a stats game, by an effect game, I don't plan to do much punting as a UW fan this year, but when we do, I know that we are in quite possibly the best set of hands in all of college football right now with Tristan Brown, and I am expecting him to have a wonderful, if not breakout season.
Well, I'm going to bring it back to Asa Turner, but I don't have much to say about the punter you mentioned. He could be a great punter. I'm not sure if I classify him as the unsung hero. He can have great moments. I'm sure he will. He sounds like a great player. Bringing it back to Asa Turner, I agree with you on that. I think he probably will have a great year. I think he and Thule are both guys who we both expect to kind of make that second year starting leap kind of. And Asa Turner's got great coach to lean on. I mean, UW's been putting out these defensive backs for years and years. Kevin King, Buda Baker, Sidney Jones. You've got all these guys. I'm sure I forgot a couple. Mm-hmm. And then but then you look at Thule. Thule's got Coach Mao is his last name. Can't pronounce his first name, but he's also the D line's been something that's produced great NFL talent with Greg Gaines, Vita Vea recently, and then Levi Onwuzurike. So we're looking at it really from, I think, whichever one truly is the better talent, as they've both got great coaches. So it's just going to be who can put that talent on the field. It could be either one. It could be a coin toss.
You know what it could be, actually? Just outside of the punter coming in here and blowing both of these guys out of the water, coaches are technically Huskies too, and we have a brand new coach. I'm going to call it right now. Sorry, Asa Turner, you're getting thrown under the Husky bus. You too, Brandon Beaver. Not Brandon Beaver, I'm so sorry. You too, Tristan Brown. You guys are both getting thrown under the Husky bus. I am going with our brand new coach as being the breakout star for this season. I think that he's gonna pull together this insane talent that we have. I mean, we've been talking about talent on this UW roster for the past 7 weeks. And the one thing I think that is going to be tying them all together, at least on offense, is our new OC. And I am excited to see that be the breakout season for us. Not an individual player, but a coach and the team as a whole. I definitely think this is the season, if not next year, where that happens and we definitely start shining.
Yeah, I think if Coach John Donovan can have a great coaching year, he's got a lot of young, talented players to kind of coach and teach. If he can get them to take steps quickly, then I think, the Huskies offense can be great. And I guess you could call him then the breakout player, breakout person for the Husky team.
I want to point out that we have unsung Kira up there, which is why I made this slightly large reach from player to coach. But if we're going back to players, I'm picking Turner, you're picking Tooley. We're going to see how it turns out as the season goes on. Nathan, for Tooley, though, what game are you most excited to see him play in this year? Or even what game are you most excited to see in general?
Probably, I'm really looking forward to the Oregon game. I think the Huskies and the Ducks they've kind of had a great rivalry. I mean, they've been playing since the 1900. The Huskies have the edge, but then, of course, the Ducks looking at recency bias, they have the big edge going. The Huskies are only 2-14 against the Ducks since 2004. But then I think that the Huskies, this might be the year that the Huskies kind of shock the overall NCAA college football fans on the East Coast everywhere. As I think, as much hype as the Ducks might be getting, I think the Huskies are kind of running under the radar, especially with how this season has kind of transformed with all these players opting out. Yeah, the Huskies lost Joe Tryon and Levi Onwuzurike, 2 key pieces on their defense. But I think these Oregon Duck losses might hit them a lot harder. So first off, you look at it, 4 of their 5 offensive linemen from last year graduated. They're gone. The one guy who was still there, Panini Sewell, he's opted out. So they've got 5 brand new offensive linemen. And then you look at some other guys who opted out. 3 of their 4 defensive backs opted out. They've got a whole new defensive back. So I think that the Huskies might be able to expose them a bit with whoever the Huskies have under center. They might be able to get some passes going with these young Oregon defensive backs, and I think make it a much more exciting game than most people might think.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, from the stats you just pulled with the player and personnel they have missing, I think you just want to see them get just romped on, man.
Well, I would love nothing more than a 2016 60-point to 20-point destruction of the Oregon Ducks. I would love nothing more than that.
That would definitely be sweet to taste and watch.
Yeah, that would be fun.
For me personally, I'm a big fan of rivalries. One of the best ones in the Pac-12, maybe in the nation, definitely the state we're in, is the Apple Cup rivalry between us and Wazoo, and that's the game that I really want to see this year for a multitude of reasons. One, it's not going to be an easy game. What with the big asterisk on the season, I mean, obviously you've mentioned it already. We've lost Levi and Joe Tryon, 2 huge key pieces for our defensive side. While Wazoo at the moment, and correct me if I'm wrong if you've heard anything else or if anyone in chat knows more about this, I'm pretty sure they're only opt-out this season with the wide receiver they had, Cassidy Woods, who didn't do all that much last year. I think he had a total of 8 receptions, something like this is like I'm scraping the bottom of my memory when I was looking at his stat page. Like he did not have many, like nothing about his stat page. No offense to Cassidy Woods, maybe he didn't get enough playing time, very few targets. I don't know. Looking at that guy's stat page, I saw nothing that jumped out to me. And unless I have to go back in later tonight and like look at their depth chart, see how many seniors they had leave last year, their roster at the moment seems pretty much untouched by the pandemic and opt-outs. And because of that and a couple of other factors I'm going to get into, I think this is not only going to be a great game, but it's also going to be one that isn't just a cakewalk. So it's going to be one that's going to be fun to watch as well for both sides. Going further into it, I want this game to happen in December. That's a fact. I don't care what other month it happens in. It has to be December. Sorry, it has to be December. And I need there to just be some cuss word ton of snow. You know, I just need there to be a lot of snow on the ground. I need the game to be just a massive, just dog pile of just plays being run. I need slugfests breaking out all throughout the game, not actual fighting. So I want the game itself to be a massive slugfest. And I think because of this, we're going to get to not only see a great game, we're going to get to see a dub for UW, which is almost spoken for at this point. I mean, in the last 7 meetups we've won every single one. Wazoo never scored more than 20 points in any of those games. They had a high of 17 a few years ago and a low of 10 a few years after that. I think winter is coming. I think snow is coming. Washington needs some snow. It's been too hot lately. And not counting people who live in Pullman or are Wazoo fans. I mean, who in the Pac-12 doesn't want to watch two interstate rivals just battle it out in an inch of snow in the middle of December? On TV, I might add, because none of us have to freeze our butts off in person this time.
I think that game will be fun, but I'd look at it more, you said rivalry, which, yeah, Wazoo and the Huskies have a historic rivalry. The Huskies and the Ducks do too, so that's kind of 2 rivalry games we picked. But then I think Oregon and UW are kind of everyone would say they're the 1 and 2 in the Pac-12 North Conference or division. So, yeah. I mean, you could say Wazoo might be better than some people expect, but I still wouldn't pick them over Oregon or UW. So I feel that this game, Oregon versus UW, might have more on the line. I mean, for all we know, it could be a game that decides who goes to the Pac-12 championship from the Huskies and Oregon division, which wouldn't that be exciting right there? Oregon versus UW, winner goes to the Pac-12 championship. That's what I was looking at it more as Oregon being this very good or nationally looked at as a good team compared to the Cougars, who nationally aren't looked at as good of a team. Not trying to insult anyone. I mean, they're just nationally looked at as good of a team as Oregon. So I'm speaking facts right now. You show me a national ranking that has the Cougars above UW or above Oregon. Let's see it. So that's what right my point of view was. Yeah, let's see. Anyone in the chat?
Well, it's not coming up. I think you're right. Keep going.
Yeah. So from that point of view, I'd much rather see a game that decides more for the future than just kind of the historic rivalry of UW versus Wazoo.
Well, I mean, there's a lot more legacy there than the Oregon game, Oregon rivalry. I mean, sorry, but there's also more like history behind it too. I mean, our rivalry has started like much. I think it was 1900 was when our rivalry started. Game ended in a 5-5 tie, by the way, if you never knew that, in our very first meetup Apple Cup. And since then, I'm pretty sure we have like a 6.88 average on winning. For the record, if the actual record right now between us and Wazoo, I'm pretty sure is 74, 32, and 6. So the 6.88, like I said. But one thing that I think is kind of flying under the radar for this next Apple Cup is that if we win this, we tie for first place for the longest win streak of the Apple Cup since its inception in 1900. It's currently tied at 8 games from 2 different time periods. Both were by us, I want to say, actually, which is kind of great. We hold both of the 8 win streak records. We're about to make it a third if we win this year, and we have the chance to extend that rivalry. I think both games are going to be insane to watch. I think they're both going to have amazing things to decide for the future of UW, as well as preserving the past. And I, for one, am excited to see both games. Thank you, everyone. That just about finishes up all the time that we have for today. Once again, I'm Joseph Claypoole, and this is Nathan Mathisen. You can follow us on our different social medias with the @ that you currently see on screen right now. We're just a small part of the Dashsports family, though. So if you'd like to meet the rest of the crew, please check out our website, dashsports.tv, and our partner, sportspac12.com, where you can also read further into segments from our weekly shows, many of which, if not at least some, are written by Nathan, our very own. So if you'd like to revisit the best moments of today's episode, please head over to our website where you can find clips, quips, tips, rips, terrible jokes, and as many full episodes as you can stand, all in one place, all for free, dashsports.tv. We'll see you next week, but for now, this is Husky Dash signing off.